Hi, my name is Caolan Carroll. I'm 23 and I'm from Dublin. I'm a former Shelbourne football player where I now coach and help out from time to time, and I'm doing all things digital for the Aware 10 at 10. So mental health for me is quite a sensitive topic. It's something which I've struggled with from a very young age. If you think that kids can't experience mental health issues, you couldn't be more wrong. I was a real tomboy as a kid. Just wanted to have football at my feet 24/7. I didn't fit in with the boys, I didn't fit in with the girls, and I was let know kind of from a very young age that I was different, and that different was going to be a negative growing up. I got quite a hard time, kind of no matter where I went, to be honest, just because I was different, and that resulted in me having a lot of kind of deep-rooted insecurities. I had very low self-esteem, very low self-confidence. I used to bite my nails obsessively, things like that. So that really wasn't a great foundation for me kind of going up into secondary school and going into teenage years. I found the transition to secondary school very difficult. My parents were going to actually pull me out of school halfway through the year and swap schools. That's how bad it kind of was. I always found kind of new environments, meeting new people, new situations that I'd never been in before very difficult to navigate. I still kind of do to this day. I've just learned how to manage it a lot better now, but back then I was only 12, so it was very, very hard for me. But I got through that year, and eventually I made a really great group of friends in school who are still my friends to this day. They loved me, I loved them. They wanted me to hang out with them outside of school, they wanted to see me. So I was always invited places, but I found it very difficult to go to them. I found it hard to come out of my comfort zone of my local area, of my best friends around here who are my best friends from a young age. They were with me through a lot of the stuff growing up, so I was very comfortable with them. I kind of had a fear, I guess, of going out and meeting new people and the same kind of stuff happening to me again, being branded as different, or it was just very hard for me to kind of put myself out there. So every now and then I did get myself out there. It was the getting there was the hard part. Once I got there, it was generally grand, but it was torture trying to get myself to go a lot of the time. I remember we moved into fourth year, and that seems to be just when everybody goes out a lot more parties going on, a lot more mixing kind of. And I was grand in school, because I was great crack in school. I loved school. It was the same thing day to day. I think that was the thing. I was very comfortable there. I knew everybody. Again, it's routine over time. So I was great in school that year, but outside I found it hard. I was invited to all these things again, but I very rarely went, and as a result of that, I don't have the same kind of memories and stuff as a lot of my friends do, and I found that even harder to cope with. I started to really resent myself because of that. I wished I was anybody but me, to be honest. I really, really hated myself, kind of. I couldn't understand why I was the way I was. I couldn't understand why I couldn't be like everybody else, why I seemed to find things hard that no one else did. I never understood why. I just thought that I was awkward, or that I was different, or just not normal, and I really fed into that, and I just thought very lowly of myself, and then you kind of move on to the end of school, and we were going into college, and I gave myself a bit of a blank slate. I started to go out a lot more with my school friends. I'm on nights out and stuff. Again, I was grand once I got there, but it was getting there that I found hard. But I was much more comfortable with that as time went on. And then in college, I put myself out there a lot more. Ensured that I made new friends. I went on all the nights out, and I had a brilliant year. First year of college was brilliant. It was the happiest year I had in my life to that day. It really was. But that year absolutely flew in. And it was over so quickly. And I was 19 at the end of that year, and then that summer my granddad fell very ill. He was kind of sick for a while before that, but he became very ill that summer, and he died at the end of the summer. At the start of September he died, and there was a lot going on in the family at the time, and just what was my life for 19 years just completely changed. I was really close to my I was raised with my grandparents, so I was very close to that side of the family and stuff. So what was my life for 19 years, as I said, just changed completely. I was also in the room with my granddad when he passed away, so that was obviously quite a difficult situation in itself. But everything that happened, that was on the space of 2 weeks, everything changed, and I never addressed it. I never coped with it. I just kind of got on with it, I guess. And I think that was the worst thing I could have done, because I just took a million steps back to the place in which I built myself up to the previous year, I stopped going out as much. I reduced my friend circle in again, stopped going out with college, stopped going out with the girls from school as much, stuck to my local friends because I could cope with that. It was too much for me to manage multiple friend circles at the time. But you know, like I'd have people from college asking me out and I'd be like, you know, like for your birthday I'll definitely come out, and I'd tell them and I'd want to, but then I'd come home and I'd go to bed, I'd go to sleep. And I did that a lot, you know. I'd tell people I'd be out, I'd just be in bed, I'd sleep or I'd sit in on the laptop. I just didn't care. I was so careless with everything. I nearly failed my second year of college, you know. You know, my mum always did kind of ask me was I okay, but I just started a fight and that would just like defer any attention from the whole situation, you know. Very irritable. I just could fight with anybody on the spot. I could be happy one minute and just a demon the next, you know. And I ticked away like that, going through the motions for a couple of years, going to all the events I had to, putting the smiley face on, having the bit of crack, but being miserable underneath it all. Like the only word I have for it is just going through the motions. That's literally it. Like I was like an empty vessel, literally. I was in a very, very low place. Only like looking back, I was in a very low place, you know. And I continued on like that, and then at the end of 2016 I couldn't do it anymore. I got myself into a very an even lower place, and I got myself to the doctor, and I just sat down with him and I just started bawling, crying. I just told him that I've been so down, so low for the past couple of years, that I couldn't do it anymore, that I needed help, and he suggested that I go on medication and do counselling, which I did. Since then I haven't been on the medication because it just had some other side effects that just I wasn't kind of happy with, so I stuck with the counselling. And then that's kind of gotten me to where I am now, you know. In the past 7 months or so, after like I finished college, and I've just spent a lot of time on my own and in counselling, understanding the kind of issues that I went through. And only now do I understand that everything that I went through and stuff falls under the terms general anxiety disorder, social anxiety and low mood. I'd never even heard those words before until I was told that I fall under those categories. I think that labels sometimes can be really a negative thing, but for me they were a massive positive because it made me feel less isolated. And made me feel like, oh, there's a whole other group of people who feel the same as me. Like I fall under a category of people, you know. And like it's just funny because, you know, like I went through years of school studying I don't even know what, like, but it wasn't classes that taught me how to deal with my feelings, how to deal with being low, how to communicate what I'm feeling, to have the words to articulate how I'm feeling, you know. And I feel like if I had that, it would have saved me a lot of pain, to be honest, you know, and a lot of stuff that I went through. And I was just so mentally exhausted by it all, like, and that turns into physical exhaustion. Like I was so tired from keeping face all the time that I was physically knackered. Like, you know, I could just lie there for days. And I was starting to see physical side effects as well. I suffered from alopecia areata, which is the losing of your hair in patches, and that freaked me out big time. It still freaks me out to talk about to this day because I couldn't hide it, you know. I couldn't hide it as well as I could hide my feelings, I suppose. So yeah, the event that Davey's doing is very close to my own heart. So sports for me growing up was a saviour, to be honest. And when I was always just known as, you know, Caolan plays football, you know, it was kind of part of my identity, I suppose, growing up. I've been with Shell since I was 14, so the club raised me. My friends from my team are my friends to this date. If you're not part of a team, it's hard to understand, but like you see them minimum 3 times a week. They are your second family, you know. You win together, lose together, you grow up together. And when I stepped onto the pitch, I'd forget everything. I would just forget everything, you know, and I felt like I fit in at football. I felt like I fit in with my teammates. It was just pure happiness, like pure bliss, those years growing up with Chelsea. But again, when I was around 19 and everything kind of started happening, things got heavy for me, you know, and I started bringing everything like that onto the pitch with me. You know, I was used to be so confident, a great talker, you know, I was voted captain by my teammates, like everything was going so well for me, you know, I was good, and it was like it was like a different person. It was like I had no touch, I had no control. I didn't want to be there. I used to finish training and couldn't wait to be there the next day, like, but I would nearly have been happy to be on the bench, but at the same time I didn't want to lose it all. It was so conflicting. Then I remember damaging my ankle ligaments in a game a few years later. I remember the relief. I was just like, oh, thank God, because I used to be like, oh no, like I really fed into it. Even when I was ready to come back to play, I was like, oh no, like, you know, I used it as an excuse rather than tell people how I was feeling. We have a culture where we don't want to feel weak in sports, you know. You don't want to be seen as the weak player, and that needs to change massively. You know, we need to have some protocol in place for mental health support for athletes. I don't care what level it is. I don't care if you're playing for Ireland or playing at schoolboys level. It doesn't matter. There needs to be something in place there, especially as a backup for managers and stuff, who to be able to pass young kids on to people who are more experienced in that side of things, you know. And then from coaching then myself, seeing the pressure that these young kids are under. They have to, you know, perform in school, perform at home, perform on the pitch. It's just pressure following them around everywhere, and you know, we're not really told how to deal with it, you know. It's very difficult, especially when a sport is part of your identity. The thought of that getting taken away from you is absolutely crippling. So and then when you talk about like then the pressures that kids have now with regards to social media, even my age, the pressures of social media, you know, I have a real love-hate relationship with social media, which is funny because it's my background, like it's digital marketing is my background, but I'm a very private person in general, never mind online. But like I post I'll post things I don't really care about that much, like photos from whatever, but you'll never find me posting anything private to me or vulnerable to me or anything that I just don't want to post. I won't post, you know. But that doesn't mean anything though. Like we live in a society now where if you're not sharing photos of your friends or liking all your friends' photos, they're not your friends. Where you couldn't possibly be in a happy relationship unless you're broadcasting it on social. I just think that's such a dangerous societal norm to fall into. Like, what does social media mean? What would we do if Facebook and Instagram went tomorrow? Like, we still have to live our lives in person. You know, like, social media should just be what you want to post when you want to post it and nothing more. It doesn't dictate anything, so we shouldn't be letting it dictate anything. But there's obviously great positives. We can share things like this online and reach hundreds of thousands of people, you know. People can share their stories, people can feel less alone. Like, there's huge positives like to be considered with social media, and I just wish that it was more that side of things than the pressure that we see nowadays. I think that mental health has come a long way in the past number of years. There's no doubt in that. Universities and schools are way more dedicated now to starting a dialogue, which is absolutely great. I really wish that I had something like that when I was growing up and in school. But it's just, you know, it's crazy to think that we give ourselves such a hard time and we trick ourselves into believing like that it's not okay to not be okay mentally, you know. And it's just absolute nonsense when you really strip it down that way, you know. Like, sometimes things happen that are outside of our control that affect our character, and it can change us into someone who we don't even recognise anymore. And that's what happened to me, and it's sad to say that kind of thing out loud, but it's true, you know. It's just, I buried my feelings for so long, and then it all just came to a head anyway, you know. And the reality of it is that I'll probably always have hard days, but I'm in a much better place after figuring things out now. And of course I'd love to redo the last 4 years knowing what I know now, but I can't, you know. That's the reality of it now. Like, those years are gone, but I have so many more years now to kind of fix the wrongs that I want to, and then to just enjoy my life, you know. Like, my past 23 years have been not great for me, you know. And I put myself down so much. I was in I never really told anybody how low of a place I really was in, and I should have, you know. And if I could go back in time, I'd tell my younger self that, you know, you're not so different after all. And if I could go back 4 years, I'd tell myself not to push away the people who mean the most to you, but instead to talk to those people. There's no one size fits all for mental health. We're not born and given an instruction manual and gone, there you go now, you'd be grand, you know. Like, you're not. And we need to remember that success looks different on everybody, and so does struggle. You know, you could have everything in the world and be miserable. You could have nothing in the world and be content with life. There's not one size fits all. You know, there just isn't. It's as simple as that, and we need to all remember it. You can kind of say that we have to be kind to everybody else, you know. That goes without saying. Everybody is fighting their own battle. You know, we've heard that 1,000 times. You shouldn't even have to tell anybody that. But the big one is to be kind to yourself. You know, I spent so long putting so much energy and effort into putting myself down and letting other people put me down as well. You know, when I should have been building myself up. So that's where it starts. You have to be kind to yourself and give yourself a break, you know. And as I said, I'm still figuring things out, but you will get there in the end. You will get through. There are people out there who care about you, who want to help you, who love you, and you need to let them.